Alright, in this video we're going to be looking at part 2 of the Python Hangman project series, in which in this part we're going to be looking at the logic behind if the user has guessed the word correctly or not, and in turn if the user has won the game. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create another function, and how this series is going to work is we're going to first look at multiple functions that determine the logic of the game, and then we're going to be creating a function that actually runs the whole game in our console, which uses our defined functions. So what I'm going to do here is def guess word. So the purpose of this function is to determine if the user has won the game, or basically guess the word correctly. So def guess word. This is I'm gonna pass in two parameters here. So word here, first parameter, is gonna be the actual word being generated from this generate words function, and its letters guessed is gonna be a list storing uh, all the letters that the user has guessed. So if I guess A, this A is going to be added to this letters guessed. And if I, for example, guessed then this E is going to be added to this letters guessed list. So to summarize this a list of all the users' guesses, which is basically the letters. So what I'm going to do here next is going to create a variable, check letters. So how am I going to determine if the user has won the game? Is first I'm going to be iterating through each of these letters in the actual word. So I'm going to iterate through G, A, R, D, E, N. And if each of these letters are in the list of letters that the user has already guessed, then that indicates that the user has won the game. So if the user has guessed garden, then the user has won the game. So what I'm going to do is iterate through this word. So I can just iterate through the word in this way. So for letters in word, so this is one way I can iterate through the word. So for letters in word, and I can use any variable here. I'm just keeping it letters, since it's a clear way of clear variable, which indicates its purpose. So I'm just going to iterate through each of these letters. And if the certain letter in the actual word is in the list of letters that the user has already guessed, then what I'm going to do is iterate this check letters count by 1. So let's actually do plus equals 1 here. Then let's see why this works. So what I'm going to do here is first going to look through each of these letters to determine if the user's won the game or not. So for letters in word, I'm going to read through G, A, R, D, E, N, and say if I already guessed all the letters that are in this word. So G, A, R, D, E, N. So this list of letters guessed is going to be storing, in this case, G, A, R, D, E, N, and I'm going to be iterating through this word. So I'm going to check GARDEN, and if each of these letters are in the list of letters guessed, which has the letters that I guessed, for example, GARDEN, then I'm going to be iterating this check letters by 1. So in the end, hopefully, to indicate that the users won the game, this check letter should store a value that is equal to the amount of letters in the actual word. So if I have GARDEN here in the letters of this word, to indicate that the user has guessed the word, check letters has to eventually store a value of 6 in this case, since the word garden has 6 letters. So what I'm going to do here is create simple conditions. So I'm going to do is check letters, and if that value of that variable is equal to the length of the actual word in this case, then I'm going to return true, indicating that the user has guessed the word correctly. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is just return false. So the only remaining condition left is else, and else I'm going to just return false if the user has not guessed the word correctly. So that's all we actually have for this def guess word function, where we actually iterate through each of these letters in the actual word and compare it to the letters that the user has already guessed, and we're actually keeping track of that in a variable. And if the variable value is equal to the length of the actual word that has to be guessed, then that indicates the user has guessed the word correctly. Otherwise, we're going to return false to indicate that the user is still guessing the word. So that was basically this part. And in the next parts, we're going to explore more of the logic behind the actual Hangman game.